Good morning, everyone. My name is Eliza Angel Farnacio, and I will be discussing the Alfred McCoy's Philippine cartoons, political caricature of the American era. Objectives: to learn about the background of the political caricatures, to know who wrote the analysis book, to recognize the importance of political caricatures of the American era. But before we proceed, answer Preeti's first. Directions: write T if the statement is true, and F if the statement is incorrect. Write it on your notebook and send to the reporters via Messenger or MS Teams. Number 1. Cartoons became an effective tool of publicizing opinions through heavy use of symbolism, which different from verbose, written, editorial, and opinion pieces. Number 2. Philippine political cartoons gained full expression during the Spanish era. Number 3. McCoy has spent the past 50 years writing about Southeast Asian history and politics. Number 4. The caricatures are a graphic description of the events that went on under the American colonial period. And last but not the least, artist-writer Alfredo Roses is the one who designed the book, contributes an essay on Philippine graphic satire of the period. Alfred McCoy. Dr. Alfred McCoy is a Harrington Professor of History at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. He is the author of the analysis book about the political caricature of Philippine cartoons, Political Caricatures of the American Era 1900s to 1941. He was born on June 8, 1945 in Concord, Massachusetts, United States. He also served as director of Center of Southeast Asian Studies. That's why he has the chance to study about the political caricature in Philippines, for we are also part of the Southeast Asia. Along with Alfred McCoy is the co-author of the book Alfredo Roses. He is the co-author of Political Caricature of American Era. Artist-writer from the Roses clan in Philippine print media. He is also known as journalist in Manila Times. Historical background of political caricature of the American era. During the American era, Philippine political cartoons gained full expression. During the American era, expressing the feelings or expression against the Americans is by printed drawing. If you remember, during the Spanish period, Dr. Jose Rizal's way of expressing his feelings against the Spanish was by writing a book, The Noli Me Tangere and the El Filibusterismo. But in American era, Filipino expresses by releasing a cartoons or printed drawing put usually in newspaper, so caricature political cartoons are usually seen in the editorial page of newspaper. Filipino artists recorded national attitudes toward the coming of the Americans as well as the changing mores and times. While the 377 cartoons compiled in this book speak for themselves, historian Alfred McCoy's extensive research in Philippine and American archives provides a comprehensive background not only to the cartoons but to the turbulent period as well. El Torno de los Partidos was published by Lipang Calabao on August 24, 1907. In the picture, we can see the Uncle Sam rationing porridge to the politicians and the member of the Progresista Party, while members of Nacionalista Party look on and wait for their turn.
And now, let us move on from the analysis of the political caricatures during the American period. The transition from the Spanish colonial period to the American period demonstrated different strands of changes and shifts in culture, society, and politics. The American drastically introduced democracy to the nascent nation, and the consequences were far from ideal. The Filipinos were introduced to different manifestations of modernity like healthcare, transportations, and media. The selected cartoons illustrate not only the option of certain media outputs about Philippine society during the American period, but also paint a broad image of society and politics under the United States. In the area of politics, we see the price that Filipinos paid for the democracy modeled after the Americans, for it seemed that Filipino politicians did not understand well enough of the essence of democracy and the accompanying democratic institution and processes. The transition from the Catholic-centered Spanish Filipino society to an imperial American assimilated one and its complications were depicted in the cartoons. Lastly, the cartoons illustrated the conditions of poor Filipinos under the American government, depicted how the Americans controlled the Filipinos through a seemingly harmless American objects.
Before we end the discussion, please answer the post test and write it on your notebook.